Alright, so today we're going to be making my lentil loaf recipe, and the ingredients you will need will be some garlic, onion, broccoli, mushrooms, an apple, some tomato sauce, cauliflower over here, some oatmeal, and lentils, of course. And you can use any kind of cooking oil you want, but I'm just going to be using some avocado oil. And this recipe doesn't use any exact ingredients. You can basically just eyeball things. The only exact measurement that I use is with lentils. Right here I've got 200 grams of lentils rinsed, ready to put in the Instant Pot. So I'm going to put this in for 20 minutes at high pressure. You don't need to use an Instant Pot, but if you're going to cook these lentils, just try to make sure that by the time they're done, there's not much moisture in the lentils. You want it to be fairly dry. And now that the lentils are cooking, we want to get everything else ready. So preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And now we'll get all the vegetables started. Okay, so first thing, we're going to chop up some cauliflower. Not using any exact measurements here. So just chop up, like, pretty much everything is to taste. I don't like to, be hoity-toity with measurements. This should be easy enough where you don't have to measure everything exactly and have a bunch of weird ingredients that you never have. So you don't even need to use cauliflower. You can use whatever vegetables you want. But basically, you want to really finely chop this cauliflower up. It should kind of have kind of a breadish, like crumbly bread sort of texture to it. And just really finely chop up the cauliflower. Almost cut my finger. Good thing this knife isn't sharp. Okay, so just to give you an idea of how much cauliflower I'm using, it's like about that much chopped up. I'd say that's around 6, 7, 8 florets. And here we're chopping up, I think about 5 or 6 large broccoli florets. So with these, don't chop them up quite as finely. The cauliflower is more for basically the base to hold everything together. Cauliflower doesn't really have much flavor, but this broccoli is more for flavor, so don't chop it up super finely. I kind of like having some bigger broccoli chunks in my lentil loaf. And now we're just gonna press out our garlic. Apparently garlic causes brain damage, according to Sparage. He also believes the earth is flat, so I think he'd know what he's talking about. Master chef skills right here. So next you're just going to prepare a pan. Right now I'm just putting a little bit of, that's a little much, but right now I'm just putting a bit of avocado oil into a pan. This is a big wok. Works better in a wok. It's a little easier to stir the vegetables. You don't need it, but it helps. Wok. Now you're just going to cook your onions and your garlic until they start to brown. And just mix it around every bit. And then after they start to brown, you're going to mix in all your other vegetables and start cooking. Alright, so the garlic and onions are starting to brown, so now we're going to dump in all our vegetables, and we're going to cook this between high and medium heat. Just be careful not to burn anything. And just keep mixing everything around for a while until things start to become a little more tender, and then
so
we're going
10 minutes.
No. And then once things start to look a bit tender, then we're going to add in some more ingredients.
So how long?
I don't know, just until things look tender.
That's usually 10 minutes.
Whatever. Stop with the minutes and the measurements.
What do you mean? A lot of people don't know how to cook.
So right now we're going to get our apple ready. The apple's going to come in later after everything is mostly done cooking. That way you don't end up overcooking the apple. So the apple, it just adds a bit of sweetness. Basically, just cut this into cubes or rectangles.
Or just put it in whole. That's okay too. Do whatever you want.
Are you back talking them? Just make sure you keep stirring everything up. Chopping things up fairly finely also helps things cook a bit faster. And we're just waiting until we see everything become tender. Stuff will start looking more translucent and moist.
Moist?
Moist. Okay, so the vegetables are just about done cooking now, so we're going to add in the apple. And we're going to keep cooking it until you start to see the apples become translucent. You want the apples to cook a little bit. You don't want to like taste apple chunks in the lentil loaf, but you want the sweetness from the apple. So just cook it down so it's nice and soft and kind of blends in with everything else. And right here we've got some mushrooms. Now these are going to go in right when everything's done cooking. I don't want to cook up the mushrooms in the pan, because all of this is going to have to go in the oven, and I want the mushrooms to have a bit of a chew to them. I don't like mushy mushrooms, and I think it just helps the overall texture and taste. So you want these mushrooms to still have a bit of firmness when they go into the loaf. Okay, so these apples are pretty well cooked. They break up easily. So now we're just going to throw in all the mushrooms. These don't really have to cook at all, so just throw them in, mix them up. If you want your mushrooms to be softer, you can add them in earlier on and cook them for longer. But I want them really nice and firm, so we're just going to mix these up a bit, maybe cook for another minute, and then we're just going to transfer this into a big bowl. So this is all done cooking. We're going to transfer this into a big bowl.
Don't burn yourself.
Yeah. And our lentils are done cooking, so we're just gonna take our lentils out and drop those in. And there's 2 more ingredients we have to add to this, so we're gonna take some Quaker Quick Oats. Doesn't have to be Quaker, obviously. I'm gonna add 2/3 of a cup of Quick Oats. And we're going to add in some tomato sauce. Again, not exact measurements. If I had to guess, this is around 2/3 to half a cup of tomato sauce. That's about right. And then we're just going to mix this all up into a disgusting, goopy paste that looks sort of like vomit. Just make sure everything's mixed evenly, everything's consistent. Next thing we're going to do is get a loaf pan, and we're basically just going to grease it a bit. You don't need much oil, just a little bit like that. We're just going to run it around all the sides of the pan just to make sure the loaf can fall out
You can use a
easily.
paper towel for that.
What?
Paper towel to smear it out.
Whatever. That's a waste of paper, Jasmine. I'm
Ew.
being environmentally friendly.
You didn't even wash your hands.
Yeah, I did. I washed my hands before I did this, okay? Shut up.
Uh-huh. He pooped right before this, by the way.
No, I didn't. Oh, no, wait, I did. Shut up. We're just gonna carefully dump this out in the pan. Make sure it actually goes in the pan and not all over the place. Yeah. And then you're just going to evenly distribute this all over the pan. Just flatten out the tops. Alright, and then we're just going to plop this into the oven. And we're going to set the time. Where's the timer? Cook time. We're going to set that for 45 minutes.
If you hold it, you don't have to constantly.
Yeah, it doesn't work good.
Yeah, it does. It goes by 5-minute increments.
There we go, 45 minutes. And 45 minutes later, let's see what it looks like. It's very difficult to pick up with one hand. Alright, so there we are. Where's a knife?
Can you not swing it around my face?
I'm not swinging it
Holy
around
shit.
your face.
Yes,
So
you are.
we're just going to basically cut the edges off. Cut around the edges here. Just to get it looser. Okay, and we will flip this over onto the cutting board. There we are. And now we have a nice, warm, steamy lentil loaf. And then you just cut that up and eat it. That's how you do it. You eat that after. Yeah. There we are. Oh, that's gonna taste good. Very hot. Awesome recipe. Really tastes good. Not many ingredients, but get a lot of nice natural flavors from all the vegetables. And you can taste a bit of tomato sauce. You don't really taste much of the apple, but it's nice and sweet and savory. So try this out. Tastes really good. It's good for you too. And as always, keep making those loaf gains.